Hi, and welcome to another video on Python basics for bioengineers. In this one, we'll be going over string manipulations. And if you don't know what a string is, then go back, watch our previous videos, and you'll see one on data sets, and that will give you a good explanation on strings. But if you have, and then we can get started. So just getting a subset or a slice. So let's just look at X. So X is the string hello. If we print it, it'll just give us hello. But if we're looking for the first letter, we just want a subset of it. We just want to pull one index away from it. We want the first letter. We do X and then we do brackets in the index position. So we know the first letter is going to be the first one, so it's 0. If we print that, it'll just give us the capital H. And so that's very useful for getting a specific character out of your string whenever you want it, as long as you know the position it's in. Similar, but a little bit different is getting a slice. So if you want a few of them, if you want a range of them, you can do a slice. And so that is just the index position separated by a colon. So I want the last 3, and I know that's index positions 2 to 5. And if you do that and you print that, it'll just give you what you want. So that'll give us LLO, because those are the last 3 characters in that string. So when we run that, you can see it gives us hello, H, that's the first letter, and then LLO as our last 3, the way we got the subset and slices. Very useful as long as you know the positions of the characters what you want. So moving forward, just some string operations. Concatenation is just kind of the combination of strings. So the way you do this is simply you just add them together, and the new variable that's output will just be a string, one sole string of all those combined. It will not add spaces in between these, and that's why if you're adding 2 strings together, you want like a sentence type of structure, you either have to add a space at the end of the one you're about to add to the other one, or at the beginning of the one, or you just throw a space in between. So this is what we did here. We have our first statement, a space, and the second statement. And then when we print both, it'll just give us hi, how are you, with the space in between how and are, and it's a 1 string overall. Multiplication. So that's the next one here. If you're trying to create a string and you just have like a character or something that you're repeating many times, you can just multiply it and it'll give you an output of that character or whatever that string is multiplied by your number. So with 10 W's, it's just going to give us 10 W's. So when we run this one, you can see hi, how are you comes out and it's just 10 W's. Very useful for multiplication, very useful for creating some repetitive strings, and concatenation is very useful for printing statements and combining different things that you have. So other manipulations that we're going to look over, one that's super important is split. So the way you use this one is you have your string. It could either be the variable name of the string if you've already defined it, or if you haven't defined it yet, you can just put in the string and then you do dot split and then parentheses. If you have no argument within the parentheses of split, it will split on a space. So wherever there's a space in this string, it will split, and that split then causes, it gives each, in between each split, and then it causes each thing to be a new string. And they'll be their own string, and you'll get back a list with its subset being strings. So this first example will give us just a list with each subset, with each component in the list being a string of each word. So you don't need to have to be, it doesn't have to only ever be split by spaces. If you have something else you want to split by specifically, let's say a comma, you just input that as your argument and it'll split this statement by the comma. And so this will just give us this is a string, and those will all be their separate strings within a list. And when we run that, it'll show that, but we'll run that at the end. So the next one is upper. So upper is useful for changing the case of your string. So here we have up is equals the string lower, all undercase. And when we do that, it'll give us a new output of that whole statement uppercase. Simple enough. So you would have to define a new variable if you were not trying to just print this, but as we're just using it as an example, I'm just printing it. So that'll just give us that output. Dot lower with the parentheses works the same way. So that obviously though, it works the same way in the sense that it makes it all lowercase, everything in that, other than like symbols and characters, obviously, because I mean, symbols and numbers, those can't be lowercase, but all regular characters will be either lower or uppercase, depending on if you use dot lower or dot upper. So moving on, the next one is find. So find is useful because it gives you the index position of whatever you're trying to find. So if we're looking at Frank, the string, if you do dot find on it, I'm looking for the end, it'll give me the position n. So when we print that, it'll like give us actually the position 3 because it's at the 3rd position right there. And when we run that, you'll see, actually, I'll just run it right now so you can see, just to ignore the ones beyond that, but see, it gives us 3. And you see that lower is all uppercase, and that also these are subsets of strings. and then it split right on what we wanted to split on. Next is index. So similar to find, this one works by actually just allowing you to do a longer string. It's not looking for just one singular character. And it'll give us the index position of that. It's pretty much the same thing. So if it's looking for this, it'll just give us the first time it shows up. And that's the same for find. It'll just give you the first index position that it's found. If there's more than one, it'll just only give you the first time it finds it. So for this one, it hits this. When it hits this, it gives us that. It's at the 12th position. It's just where it first just begins. So it won't be like 12 through something. It'll just be 12 where it's first found. Moving on, replace is very useful. If you know that you have a character or some part of your string that you want to switch out with something else, you can do that using dot replace. So we have greeting and it's oh hi. Let's say you wanted to switch it to oh bye because you're leaving now. But it's just greeting dot replace, and then in the parentheses, the first part of the argument is the part of your string that you want to replace. So you input the string. I want to move hi. I want that to be replaced with bye. So the second part of the argument is then what you're replacing it with, and it could be whatever. So once you do that, it'll output a new greeting, a new variable, a new output. So you define it as something else, and then it'll give me oh bye. As you can see, that is what's printed when we print new, and that's just exactly what we want it to do. The next one is count. So we have this string and we put dot count on it, and in the argument you do again what you're looking for. So whatever you want to count, whatever you want to know how many there is of in that string, you choose that. So in this one, as you can probably see by just reading it, we're going to count the spaces. There's 4 spaces in the string, and if you look, there are. And the way I did that is, in the way to count the spaces, I just put in a string that's just a space. If I wanted to count something else, I would put something else in this string, and it would count whatever that is. But this one, I just wanted the spaces count, and that's what it does. And you can see the output is 4, and there are 4 spaces. Makes sense. Last one we're going to really cover here is length. So let's just say you have whatever message is, and you just want to know how long it is, and you just do len. Len, and then the name, and the argument is just the name of your variable or the string, and it will output the length of that. That's pretty simple. And overall, with a lot of these things, just to make sure and clarify, like with these, the count, replace, index, find, upper, lower, and split, and other things like that, it's dot that, and then that's what you do. So it's always, it could be the string and then dot split, or it could be the variable name. As you can see, I did it with the greeting. It's greeting dot replace. Either way works. It just matters if you've already had it defined. If it's already defined to some variable name, then obviously you just use that variable name and it's easier. And it's just in the case you maybe haven't defined it yet, you could just use the string and then dot your manipulation. And that's just how it always works. Especially with like split, if you're splitting by the space, don't forget the parentheses. It's still necessary, it has to be there. And that's the same with upper and lower. You still need to do the parentheses, even though there's not anything to put into that argument. It's just argument list, but it still needs the parentheses. Overall, there's more string manipulations you can do, and they're a little more complex and or specific needs. And if you really need those, you can always just kind of look them up depending on your need. But these are the main ones that are pretty useful to have in your bank of knowledge. And overall, these are the main ones we're going to cover and that you'll have to use. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in.